It gives you the confidence. It gives you the confidence to know that it'll work, right? If you test it out on a regular basis. I just had a customer of mine call me and ask us to help with their testing their backups. And my first question was, have you ever tested it? And they said no. And I was kind of shocked by that. I mean, I'm a sales guy. I'm not the most technical guy in the world. But when I heard that, I'm like, God, even I know that. Like, you should be testing these things. So at least they have the wherewithal to call us and say, we need help. They don't want to do it on their own because they don't trust
having
themselves.
That logic of having people just restore backups in a sandbox environment, it only really, to me, it just serves one purpose, right? I don't want them to guess, right? I want them to be very confident and I'm going to restore this, or I'm just going to restore this drive, or this database, or this file. I want them to understand it. And because teaching in the middle of a fire drill is not the best time.
Yeah.
And I don't need those guys making mistakes, simple mistakes. I mean, we think, oh, it's simple, just restore the database and off you go. Somebody restores the wrong thing. Terry set that up, or, it become a big problem really fast. So I really just do it to give the guys the confidence. It's very simple. You do it once every quarter. You know how to do it. It's not one of these things. I remember how I did this, back in 2011. Let me see if I can figure it out. That's not really what I'm looking for.
You get the practice of doing it, going through the methods, make sure everything's tight and works. You also catch any drift, right? That, they changed the drive letter of the database, so we didn't update our drive exclusions or whatever, right, in the policy. So, I mean, I think two sides of it. One, the data validation, but the practice, right? The practice is good, that they know how to execute and they take ownership of it. So
I'll say one thing about the multi-cloud, what I call the modern recovery. There is no one plan for everything anymore. It's a lot of different plans. I got cloud backing up cloud. I got on-prem that goes to cloud. I got cloud that comes to on-prem. I mean, it's kind of a spaghetti mess of things. And there's a lot of depends, right? So, the old school of I'm just going to back this up and recover in this data center, I don't think it's, I would challenge any organization that can do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I really would. I mean, I got workloads in AWS and I can't just move that to Azure. It's not the same thing. Some things AWS comes on-prem, some stuff from on-prem goes to Azure. There's a lot of depends on the services that you depend on and the services that you're using in the cloud. I think coming up with one DR plan is, and this is something that I have to talk to a lot of people about. They're confused. Like, why can't I just have one plan? I'm like, I wish it was the case. It doesn't work that way anymore.
Well, you can have a plan for this thing, and then you need to have a plan for that thing, and then now I have a binder. I have a binder of all my plans that pick one, and that's the one we'll follow today for that particular outage that we're experiencing.
But whether you're a company that's small or you're publicly traded, you have compliance things that you have to do. There's certain DR plans for compliance. There's certain things you have to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that's the entire plan for the entire business.
Yep.
I think the business continuity plan is it's complex and it's made up of a lot of different factors. And to be honest, some businesses are okay with a 4-hour outage. It's not the end of the world. They're like, okay. When I started this business 15 years ago, a driver would get in a truck and they'd just drive the route. And the route, they got a clipboard in the morning. Well, now they pick up a tablet. It tells them where to turn, what to do, optimize fuel cost, safety, all these factors that go into it. And you take this away, these guys don't know how to do it anymore. So there's a lot of, you have a DR plan for a trash truck. That's totally different than a DR plan for, my data centers and, our Salesforce data. What happens if all our Salesforce data goes down? Well, there's some risk. There's risk on every one of them. So I think there's different metrics that you have to define out and what's important to your business. And I think there's a lot of depends. And it is complex. It is doable. But definitely we're living in a world that changes daily now.
Mm-hmm.
And people in our world don't adapt to change all that fast. Our kids do, but us on the phone, the older generation, we don't adapt as much. I hear this a lot. People are like, I need training. And I was in a meeting the other day, and I told everybody to whip out their phone. And they did. I said, everybody has about 150 apps on your phone. They were like, yeah. So y'all went to 150 training classes? And they were like, no, we just figured it out. I said, this is what I'm talking about. Right? If I roll an app, I have to have 500 pages of documents. I got to spend millions of dollars to travel around and train people. But the average person's walking around with 150 apps on their phone, right? And they don't do all the training. So it's very interesting. Interesting times.
That's funny.
It's interesting that you said the speed of change, right? I think we've touched on that, even talked about how AI might be able to help us with that. But I think that's, you can test the backups, right? And you're saying you're doing 6 times a year. And that's a lot. And it's more than most folks do, right? But it still feels like things are changing so rapidly. And the bigger the organization gets, trying to keep track of all the different things that have been introduced, so that if you have an outage of some sort, finding all that impact, it's been interesting to see that there's still gaps in trying to dependency mapping, right? Is something that I feel like, that should be something that at this point you just go push this button and it just goes and does this. And it's like, well, not really. There's so much spaghetti tied in there. And that's getting more and more, right? One of the things that AI is really good at is it can help you connect things that were historically hard, or you had to go pay somebody to do. Now it's, we've done some of it where you feed the AI the API docs and go, here's this one. I want you to connect it. And it goes, okay, no problem. And it goes out, and now they're connected. And now it becomes something that's being used on a regular basis, but it's not documented anywhere that was the case.
And most companies, I come from a telecom background, security background. And, most of these platforms had a product manager. I look at product managers. They knew everything about their product. They didn't know how to configure it, but they knew what it took to run it. They know how to market it. They know how to sell it. They know the good and the bad about their product. I'm trying to take that same model and put it as what I call an application owner. And you don't have to be a technical person to be an application owner, but you need to know how your application is, because there's so many updates. Yeah. I mean, you look on your phone every day. There's 75 updates. Did you reach every one of the updates on your iPhone every time that it comes out for every application? That's insane. And we're seeing it on the business side too. 500 applications. That's probably 2,000 to 3,000 alerts every month. Oh, hey, this is changing. Oh, hey, this is new. Oh, hey, you should turn this on. And you don't know. So I am seeing some new companies spawn up out there where they're really trying to plug in. There's a new one out there called Reach that's trying to plug in and tell you what is not configured in your environment. So that's a very interesting concept. I never thought we'd get there, but we are there now, where you're going to have a service that's going to plug into your environments, and it's going to tell you that you don't have these things turned on, that you should have turned on. Very interesting concept. There's some value there. And that happens on every platform, but I'm trying to take that model and really push it toward the application owners. And you don't need to be in IT to be an application owner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you could be the business leader of the company that we just purchased or acquired. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's SCADA systems. You know what the purpose of that product is, and you know what it takes to run that product. And here are the numbers that you need to engage in an escalation change if there was an outage. And then I'm putting on the application owners that you need to schedule your DR planning for your application, twice a year. I want you to test it. You know when's a good time that's going to be it, not the infrastructure guys. If you know that business is slow in June, that's a great time. Let's do a DR test for your application. Let's go through it. So I'm really trying to build it more that way. It's still early in the process. A lot of work that needs to still be done, but I kind of like that process better, because applications are coming in, 1, 2, 3 times every week. I'm getting a new application. And that's the first thing I do when I look. I'm like, I'm an operations guy. I'm like, well, how do you back that up? Who supports it? Who's going to DR test it? They don't think about that. They just need a tool that's going to help them do their job and get out of my way. So really trying to get the ownership on applications more involved in the business unit themselves instead of IT, which is a different concept.
No, yeah, you're right. That's very smart. I hadn't heard approached it that way. It's kind of interesting. It aligns a little bit with one of the things on our end where we talk about like customer success, right? So one of those concepts too is looking at those applications and thinking of it from beyond infrastructure and how is this actually being used, and is it being used the way it was intended? Are you taking advantage of those things? These applications now come up with so many capabilities and features. Just trying to stay on top of them, it's so difficult, especially if you're really infrastructure people, right? You don't use these applications every day. How are you going to stay on top of it, right? But I also think that's where the user community, that's where they see a lot of the value. If folks have expertise on the app and this is how you use it, and they can make sure that's functional, that keeps them happy in a way that some of the stuff from the back end, maybe, they're not interested in. It's not part of their view. So that's very interesting.
Smart. Culturalizing the ownership, right? Smart approach.
Yeah, it's something, right? I just know that it's not reality that I can tell you, in this version of Adobe, you need to go to this file and then go over here. There's no way I know all that. I don't use it every day. So I'm hoping those guys can do it. So far it's working pretty well. I still got a lot of work to do, but I think if they understand who the players are and they own it, they like that. When you start talking to business units and you can remove, because traditionally IT has always been they're the hurdle that the business unit's got to overcome.
Yeah.
Hey, let's build the bridge, and here's the bridge. I'm gonna let you own the application, right? You drive my people, and here's the numbers to call, and set realistic metrics. So far, that seems to be working okay, and I can get 250 application owners across the company. A lot faster than I can get 10 people or 12 people to scale up for every application. That's really just not a realistic plan. I mean, I think a lot of companies do it that way. And us being decentralized, I had to find a way how do I get more application support? I mean, they're calling me in. They're like, well, how do I do this? I don't know. Hold on. I don't like the new Outlook. I mean, I have guys that know all this is stupid. I'm like, well, we hear this every day, and every application, Salesforce, all of them, they're constantly changing. They move one little thing over to the top. It used to be on the left, and I need somebody that's going to. I mean, that's really where a lot of the business work comes from. The questions.
All right, gentlemen. I think that was great discussion. I think it was very informative. Hopefully, the folks out there that are listening will get a lot from this, but I'll ask that one final question is to the group, I guess, is as an IT leader and based, we're on the reseller side, Joe Ross on the end user side. What should the priorities be? Like, what do you think are the top priorities for organizations out there as they move forward in disaster recovery and cybersecurity?
From my perspective, I'm focusing a lot more on operational continuous recovery and testing, and bringing AI into testing a lot of the things that we take for granted until it's too late. I think that's the only way to scale anymore. So I am trying to involve a lot of AI and optimization into my DR plans, because I have several DR plans. So I look at it as faster recovery, faster triage, better decision making at scale. And there's nothing that does it better than AI crunching a bunch of data. And if we can tune that for our environment for the specific reason for disaster recovery, that's probably what I'm really going to invest heavily in over the next 2 years. Nice.
Very nice. I know John Parker had mentioned that earlier. If you can use AI to get us like 80% there, it kind of accelerates it, and you take the final 20
Absolutely.
and validate.
I mean, at the end of the day, Joe Ross is right. I mean, we're going to have to use the new tools. AI has changed the landscape, so we're going to absolutely have to use that. But the end result, from my perspective, is that just like it always is, you have to train, you have to practice, right? And even if you've got the worst plan in the world. Like your DR plan is horrible. At least practice it so that you know what's wrong with it, so that when the actual disaster takes place, you know what's going to fail and you know what's going to work, and that you constantly strive to improve it, right? Because you're not going to come out the gate with a perfect plan. It'll never happen. It'll always evolve. You'll not have the answer for everything. So as long as you practice, you train your people, right, you can only get better from them. So
I'll go super traditional. I'll backtrack and go 10 years behind the curve here. Not that I don't agree with you guys, because I think that's the logical next steps. But the basics are really important, right? Having the immutable copies, making sure that there's absolutely no way someone can get to those immutable copies. Maybe don't tie them to your SSO source. Maybe require things like quorum for delete. Absolutely ensure there's no way other than someone taking a hacksaw to your data center and a physical compromise that they're going to be able to destroy your data or your ability to recovery. And furthermore, make an extra copy offsite, right, to the cloud, just like you used to ship a tape to Iron Mountain. So, I mean, all those things are really basic, but they're table stakes, right, that you have proper copy data management you can build on from there as far as the testing and the automation, speed of recovery, different mechanisms to do it. But I think for me, if you aren't protecting everything you need to protect and ensuring no one's going to mess with it, no matter what else you do, you could still be compromised. So boring ho-hum answer there, old man style.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, no, but it makes sense, Joe. Stephen, Terry, anything from you guys before we
in my
wrap
opinion,
this up?
I just think the modern platforms that are out today, where these data protection vendors are realizing they have a copy of all the customer data and they have the ability to index it and scan it and use that data for other reasons. And I think it's really changed the game. I think some of these newer vendors are offering threat detection and ability to identify clean recovery points, stuff like you could never do in the past. In the old days, you had to like just keep restoring until you found something that was good, that you thought was good. But these modern platforms are kind of changing the game. And I think Joe is using one of them, and it's really giving them a lot more features and functionality than the traditional just backup solution. So I think, yeah, the modern software is really doing some good things for our industry.
Terry,
I guess
any
other than
final
say
thoughts
thank you
from
guys
you?
for all your time today. Really enjoyed the discussion. It was great. I learned a lot and just really appreciate it.
Joe, I owe you one, so you can take me up on it. Really appreciate you jumping on and doing this with us, participating. It's huge for us.
No problem. Nice to meet you, Terry.
Nice to meet you.
Joe Ross.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Before we close, though, Joe, I'm sitting here for 2 hours. I'm a Patriots fan. Anyone ever tell you look like Mike Vrabel?
Was that you in the pictures?
But I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Texan fan. But
It wasn't you in the pictures, though, right?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe it was you in the pictures with what Rossini there.
I need that Mike Gabriel money, though. That'd be nice.
So, well, I think on that note, we'll end before we get anyone in more trouble. So, well, gents, again, to follow up on Terry, thanks, guys, for being on the show. This is great. I think I enjoyed it, learned a lot, obviously, and
thank you,
I appreciate your time. Well, that's a wrap for another edition of the Business Brains and the Bottom Line podcast. My name is Paul Delegre, your host. Until next time.